Well, hey, everybody. Good Monday night, and welcome to Bowling with the Fef, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel. Well, we are on episode 65, and we actually have some news to talk about in the bowling world. I'm happy to announce that a gentleman that I met just maybe a few weeks ago at the Chippewa Valley Match Games, Jim O'Reilly, is the winner of the Joyce Dietch Unity Award. Usbc just put that out on its social media not too long ago, really a few minutes before we went live tonight. He will be receiving that award in April in Las Vegas. He's the proprietor of Riverboat Lanes in Wabasha, Minnesota, which is only about 40 minutes from where I sit right now. The Dietch Award is named in honor of the 7th president of the Women's International Bowling Congress, recognizing organizations and individuals who have made important contributions to the sport of bowling by being motivators, visionaries, leaders, and innovators. So congratulations to Jim. Like I said, he was at the Chippewa Valley Match Games, helping out a little bit with the preparation for that tournament. And, like I said, congratulations, and glad to hear that he is going to be taking home a pretty prestigious award coming up this April. Of course, those of you who follow bowling regularly know that Don Barrett won the Tournament of Champions in the PBA Tour yesterday and bowling's Triple Crown, which is an incredible accomplishment, his 9th PBA Tour title. He's the 8th bowler to complete bowling's Triple Crown, so a lot of big names that he joined in that. And congratulations to Don Barrett, who won the big one, the Tournament of Champions. And we'll be talking about that show and tournament with our guest in just a moment here. I also want to let you know that Bowling with the Fef is going on the road in a couple weeks here. We're going to bring you some coverage, recorded coverage, because PBA restrictions don't allow us to go live. But at the World Series of Bowling at Bolero Wauwatosa near Milwaukee, Wisconsin, we'll be trying to hunt down some PBA players, do some recorded interviews, get some video, and bring you a little bit closer to one of the biggest events in the sport. I also have a plan to attend the Twin Cities Open of the Pba Tour coming up in Eagan, Minnesota at Cedar Vale Lanes in May. More details to follow on both of those events, but stay tuned to the channel and find out what is brewing at two of the Midwest's most prestigious professional tournaments and events. Well, Bowling with the Fef, as you may know already, is brought to you by Chip Magnet Salsa. Chip Magnet is a family business right over down the road in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, distributing quality salsas, relishes, and more to 38 states and Canada. If you happen to be in Dubuque, Iowa, you can find it at any Hy-Vee store. And if it's not in your neighborhood store, ask for it by name or go to chipmagnetsalsa.com. They certainly will deliver salsa to you. Chip Magnet, raise your snack standards. So this evening, we have another great guest on Bowling with the Fef. Everybody in Wisconsin seems to be talking about London today because they announced that the Packers were going to be playing there for a change. And unfortunately, we're kind of low budget around here, but we do have London on our show tonight. That is Mark London, joining us from Dubuque, Iowa. And his head is in the newspaper, it seems. I should probably turn on his microphone.
Issue. I mean, look.
Oh,
he's all over this issue. He's got.
Who's
hi. my publisher.
Your publisher. See?
Yes, he won the Texas Senior Masters a while back, as I tried to call it the Raisin Masters, but it just never caught on down there. So that's okay.
Yeah.
Tony and Jeannie are good people.
Yeah.
They've had me in their paper for 10 years, so okay.
No, yeah.
So Chip Magnet, I've seen that in Hy-Vee, not the famed Hy-Vee that Kurt Warner worked in Cedar Falls, but nonetheless, the one that he dragged Peyton Manning through a couple of weeks ago for a Super Bowl special. But that was kind of fun.
Yeah. No,
Anyway,
they've been a great supporter of the show, and glad to have them on. We got a couple of folks watching in. Rocky Harrison from the Milwaukee area. Good evening to you. And Derek Michaud tuning in from Maine. So, Mark, why don't we start up with the TFC? I mean, we've talked about that, you and I, for the last day or so. Give me your immediate reaction to the win. I feel like a lot of people weren't really counting on Dom Barrett to beat that field.
another TFC, another dull show. Nothing ever happens during it. I swear, no.
Right.
I don't know what it is about that building, no matter what time of year they have it, but if I happen to, I know I did some research. I know that shocks my readers. I know, shocking, but I actually looked up what the Don Johnson pattern is made up of, and they say, well, like Randy said yesterday on the show, you can't throw it outside. You can't loop. You can't bank it off the gutter. It's not a house shot. You got to tighten your angles and use something a little more aggressive. So once I was a little surprised to see urethane in the first game, even though Maldo had a good look for a little while, but then just like, here we go, that it disappeared. So boy, what a bizarre finish that first game. You would have almost, knowing that tournament, you would have almost expected that in the last game, but
right.
But Dom came on, and he had been working hard at the Brunswick headquarters in Muskegon, figuring out remedies and strategies for exactly that scenario that played out. So whoever can figure out the tight lane, seemingly, just like Simo did a couple of weeks ago at the Open, he just, it worked. It worked well. Yeah. Dude, you cannot out bowl a bad ball reaction, but you can bowl smart at the same time too, and figure out, what options are available and what options are going to work, because as that multiple choice question keeps changing answers every so often, it seems like even through a block or through a match game block, depending on the pair and everything else, you just never know what's going to work, and you have to be willing to change at a heartbeat. And that's what guys like Norm Duke have done for years, and that's been his MO, his bread and butter. But hats off to Dom. That was a fantastic showing. That I thought for a moment that Maldo was going to run the table again, as many have, the last, including Prather, but a different pattern, and everyone says, well, we use urethane for a reason. Well, okay, maybe it was used too long, but wow, even when the post-game handshake, Tommy Jones had said to Maldo, I think you need to get out of that ball. It just was hydroplaning. I mean, it wasn't quite that bad back in the 80s when that's all we had besides yellow dots and LT48s, but it was he stayed there, and if he left something, it wasn't much to pick up. So that's TV. It sometimes can be a crapshoot, and that's what happens.
Yeah, and when the guys lost the look, it was 4-7-10, 2-8-10, 2-4-10, something like that.
Yeah.
Would you say that Dom Barrett has been the quietest or most unlikely Triple Crown winner we've seen, or were we just kind of blind to his greatness?
I think because we've seen, well, having been the IBMA Bowler of the Month committee chair for 15 years, I gave it up last year, but having seen his name often enough win on the European Tour, I don't think you can mark any of those guys out. I mean, I had seen Jesper and Stewie and Dom and a lot of the other Northern European players that are very, very good. That's where Belmo got his big start, 12 to 13 years ago, was winning on their tour before coming over here. But I think, yeah, he's worked really hard. There's no doubt he has the talent, and he's kind of got a similar vibe to Frankie Lebois, where he can play straighter with a little lower rev rate. But if he figures out the angles at the back end and still can get the ball to finish and have a decent roll, have that heavy roll that we used to talk about, back when I was 2017, you can do it. It can be done.
No kidding. Yeah. Another few people leaving comments. Jonathan NG saying hello. Scott London from Central Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah, my brother. Hi.
Any
Hey,
relation?
kiddo. Hope you're feeling better. Oh, very. Yes.
Yeah.
15 months apart.
Okay.
And our friend has confirmed you did use the correct pronunciation. It is Dietch.
Yes. We were talking before the show. I didn't know the exact pronunciation. I was
Coach who?
Just gonna put it out there.
Not how. Yeah.
Hope I got it right, and I did. Max Guevara, BWTF on a Monday. You got it. You know, that's when Mark was available, so we got to take advantage. All right, so Don Barrett's the Triple Crown winner now. Tell me about his Hall of Fame chances. I mean, 9 titles. Typically, you get guys in with 10, but can you really dispute a Triple Crown winner going in?
3 majors. He's in.
Yeah.
He's in. Yeah, I mean, Simo's in. 1, 2 is unfortunately still. I mean, Mark Williams is waiting for his phone call, but because he didn't get to 8, and that last Firestone wasn't unfortunately his last tour win. He's still a hell of a player. I crossed with him at the Texas Masters a few years ago. He still knows how to throw the ball. I think he's past 60 now, but yeah, he's in.
Yeah,
no doubt. Probably a first ballot guy.
Yeah. You mentioned to me that yesterday was the finals of the first TOC since Jack Biondolillo passed away. He, of course, shot the first televised 300 game on the PBA Tour in April of 1967 at the TOC. And not only have you interviewed him, but I've heard you had a hand in allowing him to watch video of the match years and years later. Is there a story behind that?
Yeah. He had seen the tape numerous. In fact, back when it was on film, they could buy a copy of the film for $500, and then a 1-inch videotape. But I got to know him a little bit. In fact, after I did the 2017 piece for Bowler's Journal International on the 50th anniversary of his game, I would call him every so often. He was in assisted living at that point. And I just I felt a kinship to him because he and my dad were about the same age. And then after my dad passed about a year and a half ago, I would call Jack every 6 weeks or so just to say hi, just to check up on him and see how he was. But he was unfortunately near the end. He was happy with what he had done in bowling. I know he had wished he had won a few more titles, but he became kind of one of the bigger local celebrities around Houston after that game, and had worked in numerous centers, drilled a few balls for people, and was always a very jovial individual, especially when he would invite some of the local TV folk to come by for after hours, like with my friend Dan Lovett. He would invite everybody from, I think it was Channel 13 in Houston, to after hours bowling, and at the old Stadium Bowl, which was by the Astrodome, and they always seem to have a great time. In fact, if you pick up Lovett's book, he writes a little bit about that as well, where in the later years he and Jack did a local TV show with a local bowling show, where they would talk about people who bowled and describe, and they would have, it would be a typical 5-person stepladder final or so, but they would discuss that, and he just had a great time. Always had a kind word for Jack.
Yeah, and certainly legendary. If not for those great performances in the '60s, who knows, right?
And I was fortunate enough to be asked by Tom Clark to write the obituary. Never a pleasant task, but I certainly had enough material, and I want to publicly thank his family, Jack's family, especially his daughters Tina and Barbara, for getting so many photographs and so many clippings and memories that of their dad. There was even a picture I couldn't use. I wish I could have used it, of him nabbing a marlin south from the Gulf of Mexico. That's the type of fishing they do down there. So it was a record at the time, and it seemed like, whatever Jack did, he was always pretty good at it.
Yeah. And great to hear them mention that 300 in the telecast.
Yes,
Dave Ryan
yes.
and Randy Peterson.
Yes,
I believe
and it was a thrill. In fact, there's a picture of I got a picture of Jack and Randy together. I know they had talked about the 300 game for the longest time, but nobody really knew outside Houston the background of Jack and his careers. So even back when they were on ABC, Chris Schenkel always mentioned it. In fact, Chris was in town, as I wrote in that piece, but because there was an after strike, he and Billy Whaley and anybody else who had an after union card couldn't be in the building. So he watched it from a hotel nearby. That's why if you replay the tape, it's producer Ned Steckel and touring player and Hall of Famer Bob Strampy doing the commentary. It wasn't Chris and Billy. So it seemed to be, I don't think there was a Chris Schenkel jinx in the 300 until Pete McCordick's game, but he was on other assignments for the other two, the Johnny Gunther game and also the Jim Stefanich game in '74. And then there was that long 13-year stretch between the Stefanich game and the Pete McCordick game, which seemed to, lay claim to a jinx or whatever, but it just, no, not really.
Yeah. And multiple 299s in there from Don Johnson, Mark Roth.
Yeah. In fact, it was Bud Palmer and Dick Weber that described that at King Louis Lanes in '75. So Schenkel wasn't there for that one either. Although Earl Anthony, a couple weeks after Stefanich's game, did have a 299 with a Stone 9 that Earl later said that he wished he would have had that. He threw one in Japan on live TV, but not here in the States.
Okay. That kind of leads me to the question of, and you're going to have to humor me here because I've never been to a PBA telecast in person. What I want to know is, how close are they typically to the bowlers? Because in that strange ending to the first match, you saw Tommy Jones throw a 7 count and stare off camera. And then they come back from the break and Dave Ryan apologizes, thinking that he may have distracted him.
There may, I'm not sure where the announcers were on the Terrell Owens Super Bowl show. The infamous 28-3 day that Atlanta went through in the Super Bowl. It was that day. The announcers were, I think the pair they used at main event was 25 and 26. The booth was in front of the pins on lane 28. So they were at least 60 feet away, but it's very quiet in there too. It's very much a library type setting. So there may have been, a creaking of a chair. I remember Dave Traber mentioned that one time that Randy had creaked in his folding chair or whatever. But I'm not sure exactly where the announcers sat, but normally the PBA officials, because the TV pair is 27-28 at Riviera, they're off on the other side of the ball return on 29 and 30. So they're sitting on the approach on 30 and 31. So they're right there. But normally, there's rarely a noise unless it was off behind them on the warm-up pair. So who's to say?
Only Tommy Jones at this point.
Yeah, it's still, but watching those last couple shots just get to the, 35-foot mark and then just kind of back up, and it's like, okay, all right, but I'm not a high rep player, so I really can't say. but at least on TV it looked like, what?
Yeah.
Did they miss a transition, or because they only give them 10 minutes to warm up nowadays? I mean, back when McCordick threw his 300 game, they had an hour, and then they would towel dry. They would towel dry the back end to try to create scores. So different 10 minutes. I don't know how much damage you could do, but I guess obviously with that pattern, there was enough on the outside where can't really throw enough 180 grit stuff to burn off, burn a tube in it or something. But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't mean to, belabor the obvious, but I've got to ask the question of why some people call you the Rain Man of bowling.
I think that was Alina Matthews on St. Louis show. I listened to, and then I got to guest on a couple times because I would come up with these obscure facts, and hosted with Iggy Strode too down there, who's still on St. Louis sports talk radio. I would, through Messenger, give her something, and then she would mention it on the air. This was a show that was on Saturday morning between, I think, 7 and 8. This was 10 years ago.
Okay.
So that's where she came up with that reference, I guess. Up until, probably the last 5 years or so, I've watched as much TV bowling as anybody, and just can remember stuff because it's obviously something I like. So,
Sure.
I don't know it,
Yeah.
but as a journalist, it sure comes in handy.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, let's start kind of with the bowling part of your story. Obviously it doesn't just happen. We all start somewhere. So tell me about the circumstances, that led you to start your life in the sport.
Wow. My mom bought me a set of plastic pins for my 3rd birthday back 65. That's when it was, episode 65 here. So, and then we had this little elevated mantle, maybe a foot above the floor in front of our fireplace at home outside Pittsburgh. And I would just bowl on that for hours. I wouldn't keep score. I would just, throw and set up the pins and throw and just enjoyed it to death. Something I always liked to do. And then I would go downstairs where there was a little more room and try to take a full approach and throw that way. And that led up to a few years later, joining my first junior league at a slightly well-known center in bowling culture history. Yes. If you want to bring up the shirt picture, go ahead.
I have it, right there. And my
the
finger
plate.
on the trigger.
There you go. People have heard of people who have seen Kingpin know the center, but they never know the name of the building. It's now it was in a old beer distillery warehouse type building on the 2nd floor, Beaver Valley Bowl in Rochester, PA, northwest of Pittsburgh. Little more than less than a mile from where I was born, but the center was a 14-lane layout. In fact, it was 18 when I bowled juniors there. It was on the 2nd and 3rd floors, four lanes on the 3rd floor, 14 on the first on the 2nd floor. So that's where I bowled juniors for 4 years on Saturday mornings. In fact, there's another guy in the bowling industry who we've mostly have heard of lately, who bowled on the Sunday at noon version. And that's John Burkett.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I found that out when I got the picture of him a few years ago down in Houston when we bowled the Christmas weekend doubles.
Okay.
At Emerald Bowl that Mike Austin has probably sponsored the last couple years along with Don Ellis Jr.
Okay. Now, is this picture that you gave me, is that the place?
That is Beaver Valley Bowl. I should say that was Beaver Valley Bowl. Now it's closed, but if you look closely at the middle pair there, that's 5 and 6. Mm-hmm. That ball return is the Roy Munson ball return.
Where he lost his hand.
Yes. I'm not sure how. I mean, those of us who've worked on ball lifts before, especially with the S curve like that, you're thinking, okay, but all right. But it's the movies. It's okay. It's Hollywood. They're allowed to do a couple things. But
yeah.
But yeah, that's the Roy Munson ball return, and then off to the right is the bay with the 4 lanes.
Okay.
Next picture, and then I didn't have a picture of the 4 lanes above the lower 4, which made the 18 that we bowled on all through juniors.
Not sure if
up until we left town in October of '74.
Yeah. No, don't have that other one handy, but yeah, you did send it in. Tell me about the junior scene back then. We know what juniors are now, and there's, I go to my son's league, and you have about 30-35 kids, and they're as, hyped for it as we ever were. But
Oh yeah.
back in the in the 80s when I did it, back then junior bowling was a different beast.
It was much different. You had a lot of centers had double shift. Center I bowled at later, Bowl America Manassas on Mathis Avenue in Manassas, Virginia. That was a 9 a.m. and noon, and then eventually they picked up a scratch league that was at 2:30 for a couple of years, and it was before soccer really took off. So that was kind of a place to leave kids, but it was 3 or 4 on a team. You had kids all the way from 5 or 6 all the way up through high school in the various age groups, of course. But yeah, that seemed to be a place, and even as late as say 20 years ago, there were centers that still had double shifts. But now, unfortunately, it's just not the place. Not since cosmic bowling and birthday parties really took off.
Yeah, but we're working on it. Maybe someday.
There were. I think the highest averages were some of the high school guys were up in the 170s, but nothing. No. Well, of course, this was 50 years ago. Oh God, am I old? But back then, nobody was averaging deuce on really much anything at this particular center. Yeah. If they were, they bowled at one of the men's leagues. But I think the highest, there might have been one guy up in the 80s, but he was hitting the pocket a lot as getting spares and grabbing an occasional double or turkey. So yeah, that's how it was. But but we wanted to win. It was a competitive group. So that added a little extra to it. And once we got done bowling, we would run to the snack bar, grab some fries, grab a soda, and wait for the ride home. So it made Saturday fun. And then that led into, at least in Pittsburgh, the old championship bowling series hosted by the infamous Nick Perry, who's got a picture up there too with Steeler announcer Bill Hillgrove. He hosted the Bowling for Dollars. Perry later in 1980 was the one implicated in the fixing of the lottery, the Big Three lottery scandal that was made into a movie a few years later. So in fact, when I met up with Pittsburgh legend Buddy DeLuca, who won a lot of this championship bowling series back then, he was putting the stuff away. We were at the end of the tournament. I said, well, I'm from Pittsburgh too. I'm a Yinzer. He goes, oh yeah, whatever. I say, oh, by the way, buddy, how's Nick Perry doing? He just, then all of a sudden he had time for me because I knew who Nick Perry was. So that was a nice little moment.
It's funny how that works out sometimes. Tell me about how long you were in the junior program. I mean, I remember in my junior days, you could be a junior until 21. How long was it for you?
Well, back then, the collegiate division was still part of YABA, and before that, HABC. So you could be in, through college, and then eventually, as I got into adult leagues, then they shifted that to. They kept that still at 21. At least in my area, there wasn't a big push. It just, the group who you happen to sanction with. And again, it wasn't like it is now. I'm not even sure Junior Gold was around at that point, and it wasn't anything that anybody really did except, oh, by the way, if you were really good, yep. Here's a list of colleges that you could go to. Now, back when I was a senior, there were only 6 colleges that offered scholarship. Wow. 6. 6.
That's not a lot.
Unlike today, that there are, that there's not quite there's recruiting competition. It's not a recruiting war, but there's definitely recruiting competition for the bowlers nowadays, both male and female.
Yeah, yeah. You ended up competing in college, and it was at St. Cloud State University. What brought you from there to St. Cloud?
Well, we had moved a couple times. My dad was in the newspaper business. In fact, I was watching a 60 Minutes piece last night about how local newspapers have changed a whole lot. And
Pottstown, Pennsylvania.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, my dad's paper up in Minnesota has gone through that, as well as numerous others, except the paper here in town, the Dubuque Telegraph Herald, which still publishes an actual paper 6 days a week. They have 7 days of editions. They have editions every day, but they don't print Mondays. But when they stopped printing Monday, oh my gosh, all the seniors began to have connections because they couldn't get their crossword puzzle at 3:30 in the morning. But
Sure.
anyway, but yeah, we went to Manassas, Virginia, to a paper called the Journal Messenger that some other guy was a sports writer for and later editor. Let's see, his name was Tom Clark. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Tom
Wow.
Clark was there in the 90s. In fact, he worked with the same editor that my dad worked with. So that's
Oh my gosh.
so we got a bonding in it that way.
Yeah.
I think from there he went to USA Today and the rest of his career. But we went from there to, and then in late 70, we went to Galesburg, Illinois, home of the Register Mail, which has now been, decimated through other several ownerships, and they've moved out of their main building. They don't print there anymore. And then in early 80, we went up to Wilmer, Minnesota, and the West Central Tribune, that my dad was hired to bring them from the linotype era into the computer age, literally overnight.
Oh, wow.
For those who don't know what linotype is, they used to make newspapers with lead type that they would press together and clamp together on a plate. And then that would be the plate used on the printing press that you would see that would actually make print from a contact sheet, then onto the paper or roller. So literally overnight, they went from the computer. This was back when they had to set up computers with total air conditioning above and below and around. It had to be 72 degrees all the time. Otherwise, these things would overheat like you wouldn't believe. I mean, if you watch some older movies depicting computer stuff back from the 60s, that's how it was,
Yeah.
And then to find out, unfortunately, the day that he passed back in September of 2020, that they were mothballing the press there. They were printing the newspaper at another installation 2.5 hours away, and they went from I think they were it's 5 days a week. Now they went to 2. So there's no carriers. It's by mail only, and if you want the current news, you have to go online.
Huh.
That's just how it is now, and they haven't been bought out by. But it's the same company that owned it years ago. So, but that's just economic reality of newspapers today. There's so many other ways to get news that they've had to reinvent themselves that way.
Sure.
So that's how we ended up in Minnesota, and I was debating whether to go to Mankato State or St. Cloud State, but I knew that St. Cloud State had a radio station, student radio station, and a student television station, so they won.
Yeah,
I guess
they did. No, they absolutely won. Is that is that a good segue into this one?
Oh yes. Stay classy, St. Cloud. Yes, that was one of the first times I anchored the news on the student station, which is still called UTVS for University Television System, which we did 3 live half-hour newscasts at noon, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I morphed later into, I would anchor one day and then do the weather the 2 other days, usually Monday and Friday. I would do the weather. somebody from the student newspaper, the Chronicle, came in. Yeah, we want to take a picture or something here. So Ann is just looking. It's like, oh God, get this over with. Hurry up. Ann Finelli, and then the other guy there with trying to look look busy or do something before airtime. But I wish I had video from those. But of course, back then we used, get this. You being a TV guy will love this. 1-inch videotape.
Oh yeah.
On 18-minute cassettes.
Oh.
So anybody who knows television knows how far back that goes.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
We were lucky to get those 1-inch videos. The videotape back then, of course, they were morphing into 3/4-inch tape.
Yep.
But carrying around one of the portable recorders and a camera, I mean, that was like putting a
squiggly cord.
Yeah. That was like putting a couple of triple rollers on those inline bags on either shoulder and walk around with that.
Yep.
That's how that was back then.
For sure. Let me tell you, I've got a VHS tape somewhere of my college newscast. It's not all it's cracked up to be. You're probably lucky that you don't have.
I was smooth. The only one I did say was from a college workshop where I was trying to be more. I'd seen a little clip of what Letterman had done as a weatherman in Indianapolis during his time there, and I was trying to be smug and smart, and I said, hey, I actually sent it to WSAU in Wausau, or WSAW in Wausau. And they said, well, you have something there, but we'll pass. Thanks.
Yeah. That was the first station that was goodly enough to take me on as a photographer, WSAW. No, you're it sounds like your reporting days got you face to face with a touring pro, Charlie Tapp. He told me that you were a Cub reporter back then when you interviewed him, and he thinks he told you to leave him alone and get a haircut.
Well, he told me I said, well, you got to autograph something for the team.
Yep.
And he was tired of me annoying him for half an hour. In fact, I wish I had enough tape. I would have talked to Joe Hutchinson. He was there doing a Big Brothers Big Sisters fundraiser in Atwood. I'm thinking, I should ask him how the shot is, how he likes bowling on this. This was the week after he bowled the Firestone, so he was still in tour shape. But Charlie said, he signed it. Stay out of my hair, But he gave me one of the best quotes ever that I think I used in the piece. There's a lost copy of it somewhere. But I asked him, so because he had just won the summer before. And he made a handful of shows, including the infamous Toby Contreras show, where he left a great church late in the game, and later Toby threw the last 6 or 7 at him to win by a couple.
National championship, if I'm not mistaken.
That was Earl beat him. He bowled against Earl when Earl went over the $1 million mark.
You're right.
But it was against Toby where Toby was jumping up and down.
Yep.
We weren't sure if Charlie was really annoyed by that, but it was lost my train of thought here. But anyway, Tapp said it was it depended who was doing the lanes, how well he could do in the future. I said, well, because the question was, what's your key to success on the PBA Tour? Well, who's ever doing the lanes, which there was some precedence to that. I know, at least in the Midwest region, kind of as a tangent here, when I started bowling in the mid to late 80s, it was the Webbers, Rich Webber and John Webber. If Rich did the lanes with the spray gun, this was, the spray gun days, the straighter guys would have a little better chance. And then if John did them, the guys who hooked the ball would have a better look. So, but we weren't really into topography, but it was like, oh yeah, the spray gun. Yeah, if you can conquer this, you can bowl on anything. Yeah, okay.
Well, I'll tell you, with the practice that you had at Atwood, that must have that must have.
That's
helped
right.
A lot.
That's right. Taken the fall of my senior year before they kicked me out and said, you've done enough damage here, London. That's fine. And by the way, for those of you scoring at home, yes, that is a gold angle, along with my Lynn shoes.
Let me get my banner out of the way so you can see.
Trail foot more directly behind me because the shot at the time you had to play straight up. Yeah. Swinging the gutter was not a possibility. In fact, the lane guy who did the lanes would sometimes come over to watch somebody who was there for the first time, who was used to banking the gutter, which became more popular in that time. This was mid '80s, so they would Leo Cantor, God rest his soul, would watch somebody try to bank the gutter, and it was splash, splash, hang, splash, and he would just, you do that on my lanes, yeah, right, in his best Eastern European accent.
Yeah. No, I mean, you've talked at length with me about that program and how, what you guys did, your years there, may have saved it. You guys had a lot of success as you went along.
I think it did. I'm not going to mention the guy's name because I don't need a libel suit, but our faculty advisor did not want us at all. I think my teammates, Billy Fairber, Trislingen, and Julie Maxfield, along with others, Rod Neuenschwander and numerous others, Mary Miller, the McDermott sisters, they would back me up. It was us against him. We were winning. We wanted to do well, not only for ourselves, but it's like, okay, well, he doesn't want us here, so let's make him keep us. So we kept going, and our trip to sectionals in '84 for both the guys and the gals was the unfortunately the pinnacle on the end of a tremendous year. I wish we were able to create and get some more talent there, but it came in, and they made 2 more trips in the '80s and early '90s to sectionals. But then 2 coaches later, once Wayne Wells was coach for a while, miss you, buddy, along with Gary Yoshimoto. Once he retired in '08, then that was it. That was the end of the program. And for a northern school not to have a bowling program is a little unusual. But then the conference thing kind of disappeared too. But then if you're traveling every weekend to compete elsewhere, the traveling cost would have to be up there. Yeah. But it's different now. Unfortunately it's different.
Yeah. You were saying that, some of the names of the guys that you competed against from other nearby universities.
You would not believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Lanto, Shady, McDowell, Vashaw, all went on to spectacular careers, but, how were they in college?
Oh, they were good then too.
Yeah.
Chuck was able to bowl at our place pretty well. Sammy could figure it out. McDowell, they knew how to play the old track shot. That was a little left of 10 and just kind of get it out to maybe 8 if you were lucky and get it back and just keep the ball in play and pick up your spares. I mean, they were that good then. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Nobody was really. If you go back and watch, if you really want a key to see how the game was played then, on YouTube, on this channel no less, there are tapes of the '79 and '80 college national championship matches. Watch those. Nobody's banking the 3 board and bringing it back. There was no cheetah pattern. We didn't have names for any of the patterns. You just bowled on what was out there. Of course, in the late '70s, all you needed were 4 balls, the LT-48 and the 3 dots, blue, yellow, and white. That's it. Yeah, that covered everything. That anything you were bowling on, you were fine with that. And in a pinch, the blue dot, you can make it sail down the lane and make it finish pretty strong on the back end as well. So,
sure.
Again, it was more versatility, more hand positions, very much probably the last of the old school way. And then guys started figuring out how to hit the ball a little harder, pick up a few more revs once the angle came out in '81 and then the black hammer in '84 to create a little stronger hit.
Yeah. Derek thinks that we should get should have gotten Charlie on this episode. Charlie's actually been on one before, but if you can believe it, we didn't even get into those 2 tournaments that you mentioned. So perhaps there's a part 2. Maybe we can get the 2 of you together and
Oh, geez.
continue things. But
I think he might boycott even now if he found out I was on the show. He may just say, oh, I don't like that guy. But yeah, he and I have gone back talking about North Stars hockey. When Willie Blunt was there, but their run to the finals in '81, where they had no business being there. And in fact, our buddy Derek, who big Bruin fan, the turning point of their year was a big fight. I mean, just a huge fight went to start the game at Boston Garden that got the North Stars together, and then they took off from there and made it to the finals against the Islanders. But I still joke with Charlie. I said, "You've got to have your Willie Plett sweater around somewhere, don't you?" I said, "Oh, he is. Oh, yeah. It's somewhere here."
Of course, yeah. You had mentioned that you started on the regional tour in the mid '80s. What was it that told you, hey, I'm ready to compete, at this high level and go up against the Midwest's best?
Well, it was intimidating at first. I mean, you're used to bowling against the college guys, and now all of a sudden you're bowling against the really, really good players from a 7-state area. I wasn't very good at first. I could play straighter, but some of the shots, again with the spray gun, you had a lot of oil, and you had to do different tricks with the ball, different things. It took me a while to really figure out what to do, what not to do, what worked, what didn't work. So yeah, it took a while, and it wasn't until the late '80s until I began cashing a little bit more. And then I had to show up at one tournament with my application and handed it to the man himself, DW, and said, I can bowl, but I need a signature. Oh yeah, okay, here you go. As kind as he was, I mean, I don't think we've heard enough stories about his kindness. He was one of a kind, Dick Weber. I mean, he's talked about nationally and regionally, but once you got around him a little bit, in fact, he gave me a hard time a few years later. He said he was saying something about the shirt I was wearing. I had some artwork on it. It was a shirt I worn for league, but it had my last name on the back. So I thought, okay, it should be okay. So I think there was a little caricature of a ball hitting pins, and you see the lines and things like that. And he said, you won't be able to wear that tomorrow. I said, oh, okay. Well, I just thought I'm not, but I'm glad thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And he gave me a hard time for calling him sir until I said, look, there's like 3 guys I call sir. You're one of them. So, but he was okay with that. He was good. So I called him sir, until he passed, and he was just one of a kind guy.
Yeah, for sure. You also got into the pro shop business as we get, later on into the '80s. You told me you were, your first, the first ball you drilled and sold was a yellow dot in 1988.
Somebody wanted a Christmas present, and yeah, I was hired at Great River Bowl in Sartell, Minnesota, by Lyle Mathiasen to be a night manager and also to do the pro shop. It's something I'd thought about for a while, but I'd done a little bit in high school. I mean, I glued a couple of grips in a ball in Galesburg, but that was really about it. I was around to smell any of the white dot, yellow dot series. They almost had a candy type smell, except the blue dot. That was just smoke because that ball was so hard. But
yeah.
I got into it, and then later really enjoyed it, and then later moved to Chicago and took off from there.
Yeah, one of your customers back a little bit, Jerry Mars.
Jerry
said that pro shop wise, you were very helpful, always there for your customers. Drilled a couple balls for him. And you said that he wasn't as picky as some people that you had.
No, Jerry was very cordial. He was. We'd always discuss. I would always say, "Look, you're throwing it, not me. Mm-hmm. So, let's try this layout. Let's see what it does. it's, the layout that he would suggest, and he would bounce it off me. He said, well, what shape are you trying to do, and so on. So I'd get to the nitpicky of that and try to get an idea of what he really wanted to do. But a lot of guys just say, well, just, stack it, leverage, and I'll throw it. But then you get 6 balls and a 6-ball roller that all roll exactly the same. So, okay. So what have you done? Nothing. Give me a few extra bucks for drilling your ball. That's fine. So, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, Jerry's a good guy, great guy. He made the step ladder finals of the 11thframe.com Open here in town a couple years ago. And I think he won it.
He's won
Sorry,
one.
Jerry.
Yep.
Yeah. He did win that. He figured out the tough lane. I mean, it was a step ladder final. He was the only guy to figure out the harder lane. And he did. He beat Stubler, and he beat some guy named Chris Prather, and
you might have seen him on TV yesterday.
Just looked really good. Now, I saw Prather. That was the first time I'd seen Prather up close in live, and it's like, ooh, he's scary good. He's going to win a couple titles.
Sure. So you drilled in Chicago. You also drilled in Houston. Nicole DePaul said that you drilled her equipment when you moved to Houston, and that you worked out of the pro shop owned by Mike Austin as well.
Yep. Got to thank Mike and Lisa Austin for giving me a chance to work there for 4.5 years. Got to know a lot of the Southwest Regional guys, DJ and Maldo and Simo and Dave Anthony, and a lot of the regional guys. They didn't know who I was, but they saw I had a banner down lane. So I said, okay, well, he's got, he's done one thing anyway. So great group, always fun. Not cutthroat at all.
Yeah. That's interesting to me, because as you probably know, she's the head coach at Upper Iowa.
Yeah.
And now she's
sure
drilling
Dr.
equipment.
Nick.
Yeah, and now she's drilling equipment for, her players. That's got to feel pretty special to know that somebody who, she says you and Mike Austin taught her how to drill bowling balls are now.
I helped her a little bit, but I think Mike did a little bit more. But she was always curious. Talk about somebody who you should have on our show, just to jump segments here about her experience with Kegel. She helped design the lane machine, and also the pattern, the original PBA patterns, and her work with Usbc. Talk about a wealth of knowledge. If those kids can't figure out anything from her, they should just take 2 weeks off and quit. Seriously, this woman knows, a lot.
Yeah.
Period. If you can't learn from her, you're done.
Yeah, she was on the show a while back, so that was a great episode too. So, and she was the one who brought me in to live stream the Peacocks Classic earlier in the year. Right. So, big thank you to her.
Wished I could have been there.
Yeah. It was.
To flex the pipes a little bit more. That's a solid 10-pin over there. All right.
You would have done it better than I did, let me tell you.
Gotta do.
So, let's jump ahead to 05 and 06 when you won a national Usbc award for highest average on a sport condition. Can you tell me about?
Hang on. It's
You've got it there?
Sound effects here.
It's like you knew that this was coming.
Yeah, I know. Here's the thing that anybody from Usbc watching, can you fix this? Can you honestly fix this? This is from 8 years in Texas. Yeah. Well, the base is there. I have this ain't going anywhere.
Oh, there you go.
No. Yeah.
Wow.
There you go. There we go.
Yeah.
I feel like this is an SCT episode with the old horror theater with the John Candy character going.
Oh wow.
Ooh. But this was when the base and the pin were separate. but now they're connected because I guess they had to replace too many pins. But yeah, I mean, I haven't pulled this out in probably 4 or 5 years, but very, very proud of this.
Yeah.
This was the first piece in the puzzle that said, "You might be onto something here, kiddo." Even though I was after 40, but hey, I probably had the best career in my 40s than the other decade so far. But yeah, that was all right. Yep.
Yeah.
And it was oh gosh, hang on here. I gotta jump out of this for a second. It was the other names were who won that year were.
I think you said Ashley Galante was one of them.
Ashley Galante won the girls. Ryan Van Heck was the boys winner, and Crystal Scott. I knew it was because she later made a Queens telecast.
Ah.
And I think it was 07 or 08. She probably still throws it pretty well. So, oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole nation. What were the conditions like that you were bowling on, and what was your final average?
There it is, 225.29. I had a couple so-so weeks, so it was actually at 227 for a while, but I had to get the minimal amount of games in because it was a summer league.
Oh, okay.
Actually, at Brunswick Zone Deer Park at the time, we were test driving a prototype of what became the Authority 22 lane machine. So Pat Mitchell put in a pattern, fairly flat pattern. Had to play straighter angles. Had to pick the right ball at the right time. I hate to say nobody else was overdue. So I was at 220 plus. I was shooting 940, 960 every week for about a month there, and I'm afterwards I'm going, what is going on here? Come on, I don't rev it up. I was a raisin training back then. No hand, throwing it straight compared to all the rest of the guys around Chicago, and here I am, putting up numbers like that. It's like, oh, come on, please. So, but it was a blast. It was when I got to admit I was a little stunned when I got the call from Milwaukee back when they were still in Milwaukee from Stacy Stanislawski, I think her name is. Sorry if I mangled it. I'm sure I did. But when the call came up from Bowl Inc. and it had 800-514-2695,
you knew
this
the number
is actually happening. Oh, yay! Sweet.
Yeah. Wow.
It was a thrill.
Yeah.
It was a thrill.
So the next season, you go to the USBC Open Championships. And
before that, I forgot to mention there was before that there was in the fall of 06 there was the Chicagoland the Beat the Champs competition.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't. No.
It's league bowlers post scores in usually it's November. And you're compared against the U.S. Open winners that they fly in to tape a show that used to be on WGN on Christmas Day for years and years and years. Now it's just over the holidays, and they haven't had it for a couple of years. But I know Bill Duff would love you to mention it. He's the executive director of the Chicago and Illinois Bowling Proprietors. But they would bring in the U.S. Open winners to record a show, and they would bowl 3-game series just for grins. You have all the proprietors sitting around at a member center on a Tuesday morning for taping it for later broadcast. So they would give out patches to bowlers who would beat the pro series. And in fact, one year when Robert Lawrence and Tish Johnson went to Arena Lanes, where Mark Roth won his U.S. Open in '84, for the 1992 show, Robert Lawrence posted the all-time score of 299 final game for an 815 series. They used to give away thousands of patches every year. That year they gave away eight patches to the league bowlers. But the good thing is the league bowlers then would qualify for another competition against other league bowlers. You would go bowl 2 qualifiers to get further, to get to the finals where they had the top 24. And then the big prize back then is you could win a car. First place check was a car. It was a stripped down version of something, but it was still a car.
A car. Yeah.
And then the second place prize was a big television set. They probably have, of course, I finished second in 06. So I got the TV. Of course, it was the last year of the cathode ray tube, which was the big. So I had to take the set out of the box to fit it into the back seat of the car to get it home. But now it's all flat screens. But even then, the list of winners of the car of that first place was nice. Or you could take 10 grand in cash.
Yeah. Hey.
So some took the car, some took cash.
Either one.
Nice little competition that's due back next year, by the way.
Oh, okay, neat.
So that's another fun one. But go ahead. But but skipping ahead to USBC for 07.
Yeah,
I noticed the prior year in 06 that the shot seemed to be outside 5, which it hadn't been most of my time bowling nationals. You had to play the old track shot and then move way in as you burned off the oil in the mid lane. So then the shot seemed to open up. Then in 07, I burst through with 237, 279. So I'm thinking, okay, we're in the run here. And both teams with Tom Carter's Bowlers Universe, we were bowling on the pair of lanes at the stadium in Reno next to the runway, which I think they've used for TV a couple times. I think it's 27, 28. So last game I have the front 5, 6, 7. I'm thinking, God, if I can get the front 10, I can shoot 8 at nationals. So 10th frame comes around, ball comes off my hand. It felt okay, and then in the last 5 feet, I saw it flatten out. And I go, oh no. Yeah. So solid 10, spare it, another solid 10 on the fill ball. So for 278, so I shot 790 in team, and then I'm thinking, okay, well I'm good for, I can make a run of all events here if I can find out where to play right away.
Yeah.
So doubles and singles, I can't remember what doubles was, but then I found it, it was at 5th arrow like it usually is back then. So I kept striking, and then you're slowly run out of room a little bit until you get to the last game. And I'm thinking, okay, if I can shoot, about a 40 or 50, I could snap this thing off.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I'm clean.
Mm-hmm.
I'm clean. And I had been clean through the second game of singles dating back to the prior year.
Okay.
And that's going, and I'm trying not to write the press release in my head ahead of time. So I'm just trying to bowl ahead, and then I get to the 9th frame, I stick a 10 pin, and I'm just, mathematically I knew I couldn't win, but I was still clean. So I sat down for a little bit and just was kind of feeling down. I mean, I sat down for about 2 minutes. This was 3 o'clock in the morning, the way the late shift went. So I go up to shoot the spare, and I missed it by about I can't do it here. It was about this much. I think the spare ball rolled over the 5-pin spot.
Okay.
Of course, then I strike out, but I had 88 clean there, and I had 42 clean from the prior year. So I had 130 clean straight through.
Wow.
Which I still have challenged your friend and ours, Matt Canizero, to come up with something else. So I missed the 90 clean. That's fine. That's Riggs's record, along with a couple of others he found later who did it. But that was an amazing year. And the really fun part, I got to admit, I know Tom Carter would love to hear this too, is that our two teams, 07, were battling for the lead. We eventually finished 9th, and my team finished 15th, or maybe they finished 6th or 7th. Anyway, but we're battling. We're throwing strikes left and right. We're just chatting amongst the 10 guys. It was just a ball. That's where I came up with the phrase, unadulterated adrenaline, because the adrenaline. You're not nervous. You're just charged up. You just can't wait to get up and throw your next shot and tell everybody what you've seen. And it was, oh my gosh, it was just wonderful. The real fun part was because we were on that pair. If you look up over your left shoulder, you could see the end, at least at the time before they tore it down, the edge of the gallery seating, and there were a few people up there.
Yeah.
And I kind of joked to somebody, I think it was Skip Wolf. I said, you know why we're here? We're on this pair because just like Reggie Jackson used to say with him against Lee May, his numbers were the same as Lee May's, but we put the asses in the seats. That's why we're here because they were drinking beer, just watching us. What are they doing? Where are they playing? And that was a blast. That was just fun. And then for all events, I eventually finished fourth, which was okay. Which was okay, a couple shots here and there, but I'll tell you what, to go to nationals and just strike. It was unusual, but it felt great. It was to see, because once you post that score on that electronic scoreboard, the one they used to use, that everyone sees your name up there for a while. So okay, that's something. So yeah. I'll take fourth for all events for out of I don't know how many thousands went through, but
sure, 2148 was the total. So meanwhile, you're continuing to bowl regional events. It's funny you mentioned the 10 pin, but Jerry was saying, as a bowler, you were one of the best spare shooters he had seen when he first got out on the regional tour, and that you were very helpful with showing Jerry lane courtesy and what not to do. So tell us when
that's very kind of him. I figured out if you leave something enough, you should learn how to pick it up.
Yep.
Not pretend it's June 14th and it's Flag Day. So you should, if you leave it enough. I mean, Walter Ray showed us that. He's joked that he's left enough flat tens. Well, he picks them up all the time too. Mm-hmm. So pick them up. Jerry was wanting to bowl regionals. He was chopping at the bit. He was, younger and full of energy and it's just something that the older guys should show the younger guys, because I know some of the tour guys would look at us newbies and just yell at you if you double jump them or didn't quite follow the procedures, because it's different than league where you just you get up and bowl, or if you hopefully you don't have a guy that wants 5 lanes courtesy or something. So it's just this is you on your pair, you go, and then you got to wait for somebody else on either side to go before you're next. I mean, it's a little different rhythm, but once you get into it, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. You got your win on the regional tour in 2010, right there at Cherry Lanes in Dubuque. What was that
ironic?
Like? What was that like?
After all, well, 2010 was a magical year for me in regionals. I finished 8th in points, starting off with making finals, I think the first 2 or 3 tournaments, which was unusual. I always felt I changed the pro shop hours to start just at 4 days a week because I was, traveling, plus working 6 days and sometimes 7 days a week for 9 months a year. You need a little break. So working just 4 days a week, Friday was always travel day. So early May was like opening weekend for baseball for me. Just a blast to get out there and just finally start bowling regionals. But having bowled a lot of sport leagues the past 3 years exclusively, you kind of get an idea of what you can do with your hand and what equipment to use and when, and reading transitions and all this other stuff. So made finals a couple times and finally bowled for a title at Carpentersville in Jerry Morano's house at Liberty Lanes. Ran into Eugene McCune and he ran me over, of course. He lets me know about it all the time. Yeah, but thanks, Eugene. I go Greek church, 6, 7, 10 strike, Greek church. So pretty much the match was over with by then. But still, I was happy with second place, and then we go out to nationals a couple weeks later, where we make our run for another title. But then I'm still making match play and at least cashing if it's an off week. But then comes July, where I had, I drove out here from the northern suburbs, and I'm thinking, well, I've always bowled well here before. And I throw a couple, you throw a couple shots. You're not feeling 100%, but then you find something. I finally found something in the semifinal round on Sunday morning to get to ninth after qualifying in the top 16. So then now you're in the round of 16 and anything can happen. And I happened to grab another ball. It was a pin down siege. I was on Brunswick staff at the time and had a stupid, crazy look right up 12. Imagine playing fallback the opposite way, where it looks like you're backing up, but it struck. It struck early. It struck often. It struck a lot.
That's the dream.
It struck almost as often as Charlie Tapp does. So there you go. And then I lost that first game on a washout against Chris Hansen. Beat him 3-1, and then bowled against Chad Moss, bowled him in a best of 3, won 2-0 there. Then bowled Steve Jarris in the semis. I'm thinking, well, how, I used to work with this guy. He and his mom were great to me. So, and then I got past him, and everybody else is at fifth arrow. This was the 2010 Scorpion pattern, where you could play, deeper and get somewhat of a look, but you really had to create it after throwing a few shots. And here I am, just up 12, just rolling the ball, just literally rolling it. Not really hitting it, just getting around the side of it a little bit, but make sure the thumb is out before you hit it.
Yeah.
And then I get Jason Wojnar in the final. I get on fresh oil, which I had, which was the thing then. I'm sure it still is now to some point. But then I use the siege, strike. I'm thinking, okay, he might be looking at me, so I'll grab another ball and I'll throw that same line. Strike. Okay, all right, okay, I'll stick with the siege. And I don't know what it was, but I just felt enough adrenaline, that unadulterated adrenaline again, not nervousness but this was different. And the strangest thing, I was sitting between frames. They have the TV monitors in between the score monitors, so you could watch whatever was up there. And they happened to have Big Ten women's gymnastics on. And I was almost enjoying it. It's like, wow, boy, they're pretty good doing the vault and doing the bars, and it just kept my mind off of you just gotta let it. If you're on autopilot, you gotta let it go. You just go. So then I get to near the end, and there's polite applause. I know I'm ahead by about 35 or so, but I'm not really thinking of that. My focus is throw the best shot you can, throw the shot you want to throw, and then move on to the next shot. So I struck in the ninth, and then I guess I needed count, first shot in the 10th, and I throw it dead flush, and all of a sudden the applause is louder. I'm not really aware of what's going on. And then I turn around and see Wojnar at the other end of the approach with his hand stuck out. Hey, congratulations. I'm thinking, what are you doing here? I'm not done yet. And then I look at Brian Hill, our lane guy, and he's got this, I'm not going to say it, this blank eating grin on his face. You're like, wow.
I think we know what you mean.
And then I look at Rich Weber, and he's got the same look. And this is the guy who, 20 years prior had told me, I think you better bowl some ABTs and stuff because you're not really that good, being honest. And he's right. He was dead right. I sucked. I was horrible back then. But then I said, all I could really say is, that's it. It's over. And he didn't shake his head or anything, but I was like, oh my gosh, I think I just won. Yeah. Something else I didn't mention earlier, it's an unofficial record. Now, I asked Bill Vitt later on how many tournaments I had bowled. Now, their computer record at the time only went back to 98. So there were 139 tournaments, but I had counted the ones I'd bowled going back to 84, and it was 202. Wow. Over 26 years and 8 days from my first day of competition to the title. Wow. Yeah, that's an unofficial record. I dare anybody to beat that. I hope somebody does. And then the funniest thing, 2 day after practice, Ron Bragg was there for a Brunswick demo day, and he looked at me and said, "Yeah, London, when do you get to win one of these someday?" I said, "Hey, it's not for lack of trying,
Right.
I'm just not, Say, hey, So by 48 hours later, I snapped it off.
There you go. I can't get through this.
In fact, here it is, the most expensive banner. The most expensive banner in PBA history is right here.
There it is.
Cost at least $30,000.
But worth its weight in gold, right?
Yeah, black and gold, baby.
Yeah.
For Yinzer Nation.
Oh, I thought it was for UW Milwaukee.
No, not a Pittsburgh. I know. I'm pretty sure Burkett's banner was the same.
Black and gold.
Yeah. Oh yeah, all of us Pittsburgh guys. You bet. Anyway.
Sure. So I can't get through this without talking about the 299, the live streamed 299. 2014 Usbc's cameras are on your pair. You get the front 11 in singles. You're crossing with Wayne Webb. Take me through what happened on that 12th shot.
I've watched, and I got to. I've been lucky enough to have interviewed a number of guys who've shot 300 on TV for little knickknacks, and I don't think we have time to go through that now. But I remember watching that enough where Wade Webb was the bowler that McCordick bowled it against. So Wayne comes off the approach after shooting 249, holds his, slaps or claps his hands or something. But as he walks off the approach, he says, "Come on, go get it," because he knows what's going on.
Yep.
So Webb walks off the approach next to me before my 12th shot, and guess what he says?
Same thing.
Go get it. So I have it. It's like, I have that immediate flashback about, oh my gosh, this is really happening here. So, so I get up, I'm throw the same shot, but as I let go of it, I felt myself leaning forward just a pinch. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I hope that doesn't harm anything. And of course it did. As you see by the video, my 6-pin that usually goes around the 10-pin went straight up, and I don't know where it landed. It could be up in the. I've joked over the years that last I saw it was up in the asteroid belt. It just never came down. Yeah. It's like I didn't throw it that. I thought, I guess I did throw it that bad, but not enough to carry. But of course, the first frame and the next frame, I strike. It's dead flush. But I gotta admit, the strike that I loved, that Matt and Aaron really could not believe, was the first shot in the 10th of that game, the helicopter 9-pin.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one before or since where it spins in front and it eventually clips the 9.
Yeah.
Because as it's spinning in front of the 9, I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, I've had the front 9 at Nationals before. That's fine. Mm-hmm. And then it's gone. Oh, we're still alive. Let's go. All right. Okay. All right. I think I can do this.
Yeah.
So I know John Slavic, my buddy, regional buddy, who has had 2 at Nationals now, has said, "Yeah, you didn't throw it well enough to carry." It's like, I put it there. I did what I could. That's fine. Yeah. But the helicopter 9. In fact, some of the guys were on the pair were a little nervous because it was being live streamed. I'm going, sure. Hey, I was in television for a while. I love this. This is super. And but during that game, early in the game, I was talking with Jackie Wyckoff, longtime bowling journalist and former IBMA executive director, just about whatever, just between frames, just because she was there to bowl and she was bowling later, so she got video of it, which I've lost, of course. But if you watch the last shot, I throw my arms in the air thinking, because the little voice in your head sometimes says, "Oh, you got this." Mm-hmm. And then it stood, and that's when I went like, "Oh, I thought I had it." I thought I had it, but I think I probably gained more notoriety for leaving it than carrying it.
Yeah.
Kind of what Don Johnson said about his game, years ago. But it was still a thrill, and it was my first weekend throwing motive equipment, so I was a little nervous,
Oh,
going in front of the world, throwing new stuff. But hey, it worked well, and they've kept me on staff ever since.
yeah. Wow. And it's on USBC's YouTube. It's still
up there forever,
and it will be.
It's there forever, along with that regional loss in Carpentersville. It's there forever too.
I know we didn't get a ton into the media stuff, and that's why I'm going to come back to that whole concept of having you and Charlie on one of these days. But I do want to talk about your column, which is where we get the name for the show. But this is the Bowling News, where you can find Mark's column. Just paying attention. Tell me about writing for the Bowling News, and I guess the part that I'm curious about is, okay, Texas-based bowling newspaper. You're based in Iowa. How does that work?
Well, I was at the time when I started for them 10 years ago. We were in Texas. We just moved there the prior year, and I was at a SASBA member non-member. I wasn't 50 yet. So I was bowling with somebody, and then I introduced myself to Pete McCordick, and he knew who I was because since I had done a story on his game several years before. So he introduced me to the Dace man, Clint Dacey, saying, here's an award-winning columnist. You might want to talk to him. And Clint was doing a column at the time for the Bowling News. And then eventually he stepped aside, and Tony gave me a call in, I think it was July or August, and then I started in October of 2012, and have been in every single issue ever since. And I cannot express enough gratitude to Tony and Jeannie for keeping me in the paper all this time, despite moving, 1,200 miles away. But knowing enough about the players there, knowing enough about, say, the senior masters, senior queens, the masters, and the bluebonnet queens, that a couple of motive staffers, Nathan Bohr and his lovely bride, Maria Jose Rodriguez, won yesterday. Knowing all that, and how the Texas bowling community really brought me in and welcomed me as one of their own, and it was a wonderful experience to be living and bowling down there, and still writing for the paper.
Yeah.
So as long as they'll have me, I'll keep pumping it out, as I have since '98.
And it's great content. I mean, I've read several of them, since we made this connection, and I gotta say, 10pinbowling.net, or no, I'm sorry, the bowlingnews.net is the
bowlingnews.net, right?
It is the address. If you're a fan of the pros and even the folks in Texas, like you said, it's worth reading because Mark's writing is top notch.
It's not your usual bowling column. It's really, if I approached it with my dad's newspaper background. Papers all over the country used to have daily and weekly columnists that they would write in, like Skip Bayless, for example, was a columnist. Sure. Rick Tellender for the Sun-Times for years, and other Mike Royko for the Chicago Tribune would write about whatever. But it was in there a couple days a week. So I figured, okay, well, if bowling were a major sport, how would somebody approach it from that angle? That was the start of it, with the Will County Sportsman and the late Don Lattis, who had bugged me for a year to write about, because I supposedly know a lot of stuff. So and finally in February of '98, I started writing it. And the third column was the first top 25 TV bowling moments column that I sent a copy to Bill Vint. I said, am I onto something here? Is this worth it? So 6 months later, I all of a sudden get a letter. Oh, we're putting it in the November-December issue of Bowling Magazine, put out by ABC. And here's a check. I'm going, okay, all right, I'm onto something. But I would write it I would use broadcast script rather than AP style, which blew me away. That I know I've joked that the best I've done is third place or honorable mention in the writing competitions. So thus I'm the almost award-winning bowling writer, bowling columnist. So, but it's a very, it's not the usual nuts and bolts. It's more behind the scenes, and people keep asking, well, why aren't we on Saturday afternoons anymore for bowling? Well, here it is. Here's the reasons. Here's, it's more than just, bringing in a production truck with cameras and, watching guys bowl for an hour and a half. It's a little more involved than that.
No doubt. So we've got a string of comments here that I don't want to leave out. Like I said, Derek said that we should get Charlie on. We'll work on that. Max wants to know, what will it take to make bowling an Olympic sport? And I know that's something that Riggs has covered a lot, and he says it's about the money, pure and simple. What's your take on
that? He's right. It's unfortunately with the skating judge scandal years ago. It's how big is the pile of money, and unfortunately now, if you look at the sports that are in now, the newer sports, it's all, I hate to say it, it's all kids. It's all youth oriented. It's all, teen and 20 something. You have all the snowboarding, all the all of the newer sports. The more traditional sports are kind of passe. But yet they have to look at television ratings too. I mean, that's part of it. It's, oh boy, it's been a thorn in our side. I mean, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago when we were trying to get in for Tokyo, and it just didn't happen. And we were all going, what? We had, we were ahead of all these surveys. We were doing this and that, and it just didn't happen. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I hope Andrew Oram has more success. I'm not entirely sold that string pin setters are the way to go, but if it gets a few doors open, but at least he's got a different approach to it.
Sure.
Which before I thought the approach was spot on. But you have to look at the Olympics too. They didn't embrace making money until the LA games. Yeah. When Peter Huberoth introduced the idea of, I think we can make money and make some, do okay. And then they did, and it just look where it is now.
Yeah. Derek is a big Bruins fan. So he says, I know.
No, my team did not steal your colors. They've been the Penguin colors have been, we use the city of Pittsburgh flag, which is black and gold. So after the Pirates won in '79, which I probably won't be alive to see the next time when they win a World Series, the Penguins changed their colors from their light blue, their robin's egg blue and black and white, to black and gold, which, okay, fine,
Mm-hmm.
Now the former owners seemed to think it was okay, Mario,
Yep.
So that was
for sure. Derek says Jerry's a great guy. He has been on the show before, and glad to have him on and use him as a resource for this.
He has a tremendous story himself. I mean, to come back from his health issues to to snap off a couple of regionals is outstanding.
Yeah, that's my son's candy machine. Yeah, I don't know why it's making that noise. It's doing it at random times, which makes it even worse.
I've got my golden retriever who wants to come in and say hello, but
didn't that happen during our test too?
Oh yeah. 83-pound lap dog.
So Derek says, "Leave It Behind." The Simo story is a brutal but nice story to watch. I'm gonna turn off my mic. Have you seen that Leave It Behind?
Yes, I have. Yeah. It's probably more of an older theme, bowling alley rugrat who just bowled there because he really didn't have much else to do. But the kid's got some talent. I mean, he's he's figured out a lot of things at a very, very early age. Some people knock him because he still acts like a kid at some times, but not really. He's got his head on his shoulder, so
Yeah.
he's going to be. I'm curious to see what he does in the next 15 years.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had a hell of a career already.
Sure. Yeah, he'll be in the Hall of Fame one way or the other.
Yep.
Let's see. Derek says whoever wins the U.S. Open, Bulls beat the champions. You had mentioned that.
That is correct. So Simo and the Gals winner this coming season will be more than likely flown in to a Chicago area center to be named for a taping, which I'm not sure if I could get into now, but I watched a few of those. In fact, I watched the Robert Lawrence show live. If you watch a tape, there's a guy in a bright red sweater behind all the proprietors, and there were suits and everything, and we're just all applauding and all that. And I remember I talked with Robert a few years later. In fact, it was the first year-end special column I did about that, and he was very appreciative of what they did. But still, if you didn't grow up or bowl around there, you're not as familiar with the show and that whole contest of, hey, a league bowler can win a car, thing. It's been around since the early 60s. So it's one of those things that's just not going to go away.
He says he saw for the first time when he saw it, he saw Pete Weber and Anne-Marie Dugan won the U.S. Opens in 91, and Anne-Marie beat Pete 724 to 668.
Trying to think where that show was. And having lived around Chicago for 20 years, I know a lot of the proprietors who host this. So I was trying to think where they taped that. But Pete was on, and that was, I think Anne-Marie had the women's record until it was beaten recently. Probably not many patches given out that year either.
Yeah. Let's see. Max says he loves the best 2 out of 3 format for the finals or even just the championship. What are your thoughts on that? Best 2 out of 3, maybe rather than just a head-to-head single match?
It depends. If it's network television, not going to see it. Not going to happen. If it's live stream, fine. Network TV, 20 minutes, you're done. That's it. It seemed, that's the misfortune of the step ladder. That's why the top seed only wins about 40% of the time, because nowadays the pairs change so much. They go through so much transition where, it turns out to be a crapshoot. So I'm not surprised if the number 3 or 4 seed ends up winning more of the time. But to be fair, I think it's doable. It's definitely if you're in a regional format, again based on time, because most regionals around the country, I think my title match ended up about 3:30 on a Sunday. In fact, if you remember hell freezing over, a cool breeze on a warm summer day, you're welcome. Thanks. Welcome. So, the 2 out of 3. It has some merit, but still, I'm mixed on it. Great question though. Good question. Yeah. Thanks, Max.
Yeah. So Derek says, crap. You just realized it's Mark London. Hey, buddy.
There we go.
Thanks for following my radio stuff. You're a great guy. Yeah, he does internet.
Well, I think Eric, I think I was on the air before you, but it was on an over-the-air station. The first. See, I was on student college radio. I was helping out in the news department for 2 weeks when they had, through the training process, they said, well, your UPI teletype, if something major happens and you hear 10 bells, it's important. It's very, very important. You got to get to the jock like 10 minutes earlier. So I heard a 10 beller one day, and it was March 30th. Or 31st, 1981, and it was when Reagan got shot. So I had the local news had just finished, so I ran into the jock and handed it to him. And then as I handed it to him, the magic red light that says there's a network bulletin coming across, lit up at the same time. So then we dumped out of that and went to the bulletin. And so yeah, and then my first jock shift was probably about a month later, and I would read the news and a little 5-minute local newscast, and then sometimes to get initiated, the jock on the other side of the glass, because we were in a small room, would come up to the window and let me just phrase it's saying do certain things that were really distracting. I'll just say, let's see, you can say anything you want as long as you phrase it properly. Great.
Sure.
So, yes. So I saw the moon a few times. I'll just leave it at that.
So even my 9-year-old would know what you're talking about there. Max says he thinks he bowls better sometimes when he's distracted by what's on TV as well. Going back to your gymnastics thing from the regional tournament.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're mentally there, I mean, if you should not have to focus on, not unless you're watching what the other player is doing. You just get up and throw them. If you know you're going to do well, then just you got to let it happen. It's cliche, but it's true.
Yeah.
So good point, Max. Yeah.
Yeah. He says badminton and ping pong can go. Where
badminton they've had for a while. Ping pong they haven't.
Right.
Ping pong is newer. Badminton, yeah, but then they dropped wrestling a few years ago too, but then brought it back. I mean, I don't know what else they're gonna. They're gonna have to decide what they want. I kind of think they already have. I mean, it's an uphill battle yet again.
Yeah. And that leads you to Derek's comment, bowling will never be in the Olympics. And I hope he's wrong.
I think we had the better chance back in '88 when it was a demonstration sport, back when I think it was Mark Lewis, the Wichita State assistant, and Debbie McMullen represented the U.S. in Seoul. But then again, it was, they didn't tell you, the Olympic officials didn't really say, but, how much is your pile of money? And it's like, no, it should, but okay, whatever.
Yeah. And let's see. Yep. Always about the money. I get it. Yeah. It just is, Mark, we typically go off the sheet on our show, and I know that you've mentioned several names that have already been on the show, but
yes,
at the end of the day, I'd like you to challenge somebody, and skill level is out the window. It's somebody who's passionate about the sport, got a unique story to tell. So Mark London, who would you like to challenge to be on a future episode of
just one person? Okay.
You can go multiple if you want. I mean, there's
one person that comes immediately to mind, if you can drag her off the golf course, is Jackie Wyckoff, longtime journalist and former IBMA executive director. She has some great stories to tell. I mean, she had the foresight to appoint me as bowler of the month committee chair years ago. She didn't know me from Adam, and I still owe her a bunch of drinks for doing that. So, yeah, she would be a good source. She would make a good hour and a half show.
All right. Well, Jackie, if you're watching, and you're interested, let me know. You can find me on Facebook. My name is Andrew Pfeffer, or you can email bowlingwiththepfeff@yahoo.com. And we can certainly make that happen. Our next live stream is coming up on Wednesday, March 9th. And it's a gentleman named Jeff DeMorris of Ferndale, Washington. Now, you might not know that name, but I bet a lot of bowlers out there know his website, tournamentbowl.com. I've seen it used to track and organize and document tournament results from all over the country. And DeMorris is the one who created it. And he's going to be on the show next Wednesday, the 9th. I had a picture of him. You sent a lot of pictures, and now I'm kind of getting lost in the shuffle here. Yeah, maybe I don't have his handy, but anyway, Jeff will be on Wednesday the 9th. Mark, I got to ask, have you ever seen or used tournamentbowl.com in the past?
I'm sure I have for, I think the Golden Ladies Classic scores are posted there. So I had to use that as a resource. And I think some of the PBA Regional results are there. Again, stuff I did for the compiling of the Bowler of the Month committee work. So great site.
Yeah. And
well done. Keep up the good work.
Yeah. He'll be on to talk all about it. Mark, thank you so much for being on. Like I said, we got to do this again. We got to get Charlie involved and fill in some of the gaps that we left tonight. I know we didn't cover everything because there's much more to your story than this, but I think we're off to a good start.
Yes, it's been a pleasure to go through reliving some of the things from yesteryear. I guess I have done a couple things. I guess I don't know. I just throw the ball and see what happens. But meeting some of the guys from the tour days years ago, and I happened to watch and work one night. I happened to catch Joe Hutchinson's Peoria win where he wouldn't shut up, but then it's Hutch. Yeah. It was good. It was worth it. It was worth it. That was the landmark show, literally at Landmark Lanes, Peoria. That was one of the highest rated shows ever. That it was one of the first body mic shows where they had the lavalier and the battery pack. And he was, it was, most of the country was snowed in that week, and it was a great show. Fantastic show.
Yeah. His post-game interview is something to see. That's for sure. I'll leave it at that.
An example at PBA school, if they ever bring that back again, of what to do. He nailed it. He just flat out nailed it. Yeah, he's another guy that you could have on if he would do it.
We're working on that. We've been back and forth a couple times, but that may happen. Efforting.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Everybody, thanks so much for joining us. We will see you again next week. Be just and fear not and all that stuff. And have a great week.